I truly believe that last week's episode walked in terms of animation quality so that this week's episode could run in animation quality. Last week, a lot of people had displeasure with the second half of the episode. They weren't a fan of the animation. Myself, there was a couple of moments that distracted me, but overall I didn't find it to be that much of a bother like some. But there was definitely a difference in quality compared to what we've been experiencing. And after watching this week's episode, which was essentially 19 minutes or so of pure spider animation fighting her way through hell and back, it's clear that one of two things had to happen. Focus more time on last week's episode's animation and suffer for this week's episode's quality, or we have to basically just, swallow our pride a little bit, maybe not give as much attention to detail as we're used to for this show, so that this week's episode could really, really flourish, and holy shit, did they deliver. I would say this is much more important to get right. I mean, just given the circumstances and just how it makes every fight up until now look basic in comparison. I truly enjoy how every time Kumiko gets put into a situation that really does feel like life or death, whether it's starting out with the monkeys to then lava eels to fighting a giant dragon that we're like, this is it. This is the most powerful thing in the cave. To me, it just felt like Araba was the most powerful being in the cave. For whatever reason, just based on everything I've experienced in fantasy shows, a dragon or a spider, even if the spider's a bigger size, you just put money on the dragon, right? No, Araba's like 1/5 of Mama Spider. It's like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense given what she's able to do with all these spider minions, but still, caught me off guard when the stats did drop. Every time Kumiko gets put into a situation that truly makes her say, if I mess up once, I am truly dead. They find new ways to reinvent the danger factor to the show. The biggest kind of curveball for this fight was that her parallel minds were not with her. So while she was fighting the dragon, it was very easy for her to do multiple things at the same time because she can assign different brains to function in certain ways. We see why that's so important in this episode when she's trying to use bullets and poison spears all at the same time. She's not able to do both at the same time because she doesn't have a dedicated brain to do so. There's a lot of things that she had to relearn, it felt like, in this episode, and as she's trying to just say, you know what, Mama Spider can't even deal with you, I'm gonna run away. She's basically running for her life. She gets back to her home. Every bit of spider galore is everywhere to be seen. You're like, okay, how are you going to deal with this? You were trying to recover your health. And if that's not bad enough, you introduce a puppet who is just trying to skewer you and throw you on the barbecue. This episode had no chill. And honestly, it was gorgeously animated. Absolutely flawless. I love just seeing the fear in her eyes. Like, we've obviously seen her scared. There's been plenty of moments where she's saying, out loud, I am going to die. This, if I mess up one time, I am dead. But it's a bit different in those circumstances compared to this one because you had a very strong suspicion that she would make it out of it. Here, I actually thought she was going to die. The reason being was if she died, she would somehow come back. I felt like that was guaranteed. I thought maybe there would be something with the parallel mind theory, that if she died here, maybe one of her other minds would find a new body or something, right? There were so many ways that she could end up dead here, and there were so many close calls that I was like, wow, maybe that would go hand in hand with what that teacher said, like in the very first few episodes, that a certain character was already dead. There's so many ways for this to happen, and if there was ever a moment for her to truly die, I was like, well, this could be it. I mean, you got a spider who's 5 times stronger than your arch nemesis that you barely killed with the help of every brain active, and now you not only have to run away from that, you have to deal with someone who you completely underestimated for intellectual abilities as she carefully planned and placed a bunch of minions that can easily skewer you after she's already dealt enough damage to make you winded. I just thought it was so clever the way she was panicking, and honestly it felt like because there was obviously no way in hell she would just simply give up and die, but there was plenty of moments where I was like, she has no plan, because there's no way for her to make a plan, not only because she doesn't have her parallel minds, but also the fact that she doesn't have time to think. She has to focus on survival, which usually that would be okay. She could bounce around, make sure her body stays active, as her other brains are preparing attacks and things like that. Here, you don't have to. And I think it kind of goes to show how lucky she's been to kind of evolve that stat, because it really does make a huge difference, especially considering when you have an arsenal as big as hers, you kind of need something to help ease the pain, so to speak. And it was so great to see just the running away, the escalation of all the fights, as then you have this doll, which was so cool with how it was animated. It kind of gave me the impression of a Beyblade, basically. It was spinning with all these knives, and every time you're just trying to deal with one spider, this thing would come back, that moment where she trips over the webbing and the doll's looking at her, the puppet, I'm like, holy shit, that is some of the most frightening things ever. And when the puppet first appears, right, and you just see this face, I was like, that ain't a spider, but maybe it is a spider. What the hell are we looking at? I think the 3D can really just shine in moments like that when you have essentially a multi-armed figure that you're trying to run away from its blades as you're simultaneously dealing with all these spiders, and you're just trying to say, which one is weak enough that I can skewer and hopefully evolve? And when they ended the episode as she was evolving, that was probably the biggest blue balls moment for me. I was really hoping to be able to see that evolution, and then they just end the episode. I'm like, okay, I mean, it makes sense given that we're not even close to being done the anime yet, but still, I wanted to see more. This episode once again just highlights how an episode full of action and spider is a lot different than what you're typically used to with isekais and fantasy shows with a lot of action. Not only does this action take place with just a bunch of creatures, spiders and puppets and, you know, giant ass beasts that probably shouldn't have been able to escape the cave, but leave it to mama. If you disobey her, she's gonna throw everything at you. To just have an episode where you get to see the 3D really move around just so fast paced, and you know, you're not even able to keep up. I mean, at one point, Mama Spider is basically launching what looks to be Hyper Beam from Pokemon, mixed with a poison array wrapped around it, and I'm like, how the hell are you going to deal with that? If you get hit by that, you're probably dead. Do we have that ability yet? Like, are we gonna get that ability? It looks pretty devastating, right? And I'm just sort of imagining, like, our girl with that ability and just what she would be able to do. Be like, listen, I don't want to skewer you, but you leave me no choice. She'd be all cute with her little Hyper Beam looking attack, when really it's the most devastating thing ever. But it was so interesting watching it all take place and the strategies behind everything, and even give us a bit of a tease at the end after the credits there with the human side, because they're kind of shit out of luck themselves. And it's interesting when you think about how a lot of what happened in last week's episode, had our spider not saved little vampire baby, would any of that actually have happened, or would have happened as successfully as it did? I mean, she's essentially the reason Shun's party is kind of screwed. It's very interesting to see how the past and the present timelines are slowly overlapping and seeing everything occur like that. But I mean, it seems like Shun's A-okay with killing Hugo, which I think is good. I mean, I don't see any way around it. We stripped him of his abilities once, which, I mean, in the moment makes sense. He's a prince and everything. But at that point, if that's not going to work, you just have to kill him. There's no other option, and it feels like that's the direction we're building up to, but I guess it'll be interesting to see where we go. I mean, where they're essentially going is what we've had to deal with on the spider side for so long, so that'll be pretty fun. Just overall, it was an eventful episode that didn't let you catch your breath, and I think it was intentionally like that, because any time Kumoko was trying to just stop and think, something attacked her, and she lost another arm. There was so much blood, there was so much fear in her eyes. I mean, she's been fearful, but never to this degree, and I like that. And I mean, we're not even done with Mama Spider yet, right? I mean, there's still a lot of ways that this could get even worse, and I'm excited for that. But I mean, the animation definitely held up in this week's episode. A lot of creativity with the fights. I think introducing essentially a puppet is one of the coolest ways to spice it up, because without that element, it would have felt probably very familiar to what we've already experienced with her. You know, just, okay, I just have to take some spiders and move them to the lava floor. Exactly what she was trying to do. And then in comes this just warped figure that's spinning around and not letting you get to your safe haven. It's a really cool way to spice up what we've already seen, while still finding ways to reinvent the creatures we've already experienced. Honestly, Mama Spider So What just continues to improve, and it'll be interesting to see how she deals with Mama Spider, because it feels like until Mama Spider is dead, there's no way she can leave that cave and not have something try to kill her or something like that. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your favorite moment, and what was like your favorite part of the battle. For me, it was just the unexpectedness of that puppet and just what it brought to the table. But there was a lot of really great moments overall. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy and you're around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.